Welcome to Midnight True Tales, where true stories are stranger than fiction. Turn off the lights, and now, let's begin. Every town has that one abandoned house, the one children refuse to walk past, the one neighbors avoid talking about. Some say it is just an old building falling apart. Others believe something was left behind inside that house. Tonight's story comes from a family who thought those warnings were nothing more than just superstition until they spent 2 weeks inside the house. And after what happened there, they never went back. The first week passed peacefully. David, his wife, Sarah, and their 2 children, 7 years old Ethan and 5-year-old Lily, slowly settled into their new home. The children loved having so much space to explore, while Sarah spent most of her time cleaning years of dust from the rooms that had clearly been abandoned for a very long time. Despite its age, the house had a certain charm. High ceilings, long hallways, a large courtyard where the sunlight poured in during the afternoon. For the first time in months, David felt hopeful this time. He began to believe that neighbors had been wrong. Maybe the story were nothing more than old rumors that had grown over the years. Life inside the house felt normal, at least during the day. But as evening approached, the atmosphere inside the house quietly changed. The silence became unusually heavy. Some rooms felt colder than others, even with every window closed. Sarah noticed it first. Whenever she walks down the back hallway, a chill ran through her body. At the end of the hallway stood an old wooden door leading to a forgotten storage room. The door was worn with age and difficult to open. Inside were broken shelves, cracked walls, thick layers of dust, and the smell of the damp wood that never seemed to disappear even after cleaning. Nothing looked unusual, yet every time she stepped inside, she felt an overwhelming urge to leave. A few days later, something happened that none of them could explain. The house had 3 wall clocks, one in the living room, one in the hallway, and the other one in the parents' bedroom. One morning, David noticed they had all stopped. Every single one showed the same exact time, 3 a.m. Assuming the batteries had died, he replaced every one of them with brand new batteries. Within minutes, the clocks were ticking normally again. Despite he was feeling unease, but he decided to just let it go. The following morning, the same thing happened again. All 3 clocks had stopped once again. Every hand pointed to exactly at 3 a.m. David took each clock down and checked it carefully. Nothing was damaged. The batteries were brand new. He even swapped them for another fresh set, just to be sure. The clocks started ticking again, but that night, as the family slept peacefully, every clock in the house stopped once more, exactly at 3 a.m. For the first time since moving into the house, David felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. He couldn't explain it, but deep down, he knew something was wrong, and this wasn't a coincidence. After the clocks stopped for the 3rd night in a row, David found it difficult to fall asleep. Every night, he would glance at the clock before closing his eyes. Without realizing it, he had begun waiting for 3 a.m. Then, one night, he woke up suddenly, his eyes open to complete silence. For a moment, he wasn't sure what had disturbed him. Then he heard a heavy footstep walking across the roof directly above the bedroom. David sat upright in bed, listening. The footsteps continued back and forth. Each step sounded heavy enough to make the old ceiling groan. beneath it. Sarah woke up and whispered, "Did you hear that?" David nodded without taking his eyes off from the ceiling. He quietly climbed out of bed, grabbed a flashlight, and made his way toward the staircase leading to the roof. The footstep continued the entire time. When he reached the iron roof door, he stopped for a second. He took a deep breath, unlocked it, and pulled it open. The roof was empty. No person, no animal, nothing was there. The cool night air was perfectly still. David slowly walked across the roof, shining his flashlight into every corner. There was nowhere for anyone to hide. He was confused and decided to return downstairs again. As soon as he closed the roof door behind him, a single footstep echoed above his head. He froze, then another one. The footstep had started again, but this time they were directly above him. David rushed back upstairs and threw the roof door open once again. The roof was completely empty. The following night, it happened again, and the night after that, always after 3 a.m., always the same heavy footsteps, always an empty roof. David stopped telling himself it was the wind. He stopped blaming old pipes and shifting woods, because whatever was walking above their home, it never left a single footprint behind. After the footsteps began, everything inside the house started to change. Not the house itself, but the children. Ethan and Lily were no longer as energetic as they had been during the first week. And instead of running through the hallways or playing in the courtyard, they spent more and more time sitting near the back hallway. Sometimes they would quietly play with their toys. Other times they would simply sit toward the old storage room. Sarah noticed it first. Whenever she called them for dinner, they seemed to be distracted, almost as though they were listening to someone else. One afternoon, she asked Lily, "What are you looking at, sweetheart?" Lily smiled. "Nothing, Mom." Then she picked up her toys and walked away. A few nights later, David woke up suddenly. His bedroom was completely silent. He looked at the clock beside his bed. It had stopped at 3 a.m. Then he heard soft voices, like children whispering to each other, followed by a quiet laughter. He was surprised. He assumed Ethan and Lily had sneaked out of bed to play. Trying not to scare them, he quietly stepped into the hallway without turning on the lights. The house was almost completely dark. Only a faint beam of moonlight reached the living room. As he got closer, the whispering became clearer now. He slowly looked around the corner. His heart nearly stopped. He saw Ethan and Lily were sitting cross-legged on the floor. Neither of them moved. Neither of them noticed he was standing there. And instead, they were both smiling, looking directly into the darkest corner of the room. Their heads nodded occasionally, as though someone was speaking to them. David looked toward the corner, but there was nothing there. At least, nothing he could see. Then he quickly switched on the light. The children turned around at the same time. They looked surprised to see him. "What are you two doing?" David asked, trying to keep his voice calm. "Who were you talking to?" For a few seconds, neither child answered. Then Lily pointed toward the empty corner. "That tall lady." David slowly turned his head. The corner was empty. He looked back at Lily. "What tall lady?" Lily smiled, as though the answer was obvious. "The one who comes every night." David felt a chill run through his body. Lily continued quietly. "She says she gets lonely when everyone sleeps." Ethan finally spoke. "She told us not to be scared." David's mouth went dry. "What else did she say?" Lily's smile slowly disappeared. In a soft voice, she whispered, "She wants us to go under the house, so we can play with her children." The room felt completely silent. At that exact moment, the lights flickered once, then twice, and every clock in the house stopped at 3 a.m. For the first time, David realized the neighbors hadn't been trying to frighten him, and instead they had been trying to warn him all the time. David barely slept for the rest of the night. Lily's word echoed through his mind. She says her children are waiting for us beneath the house. By the sunrise, he had made his decision. Whether the house was haunted, or whether there was another explanation, he was no longer willing to risk his family's safety. That morning, he told Sarah everything. To his surprise, she didn't question him. Instead, she quietly admitted that she had been hiding something from him. For days, she had felt as though someone was watching her whenever she passed the back storage room. More than once, she had heard what sounded like a faint whispering behind the closed door. Every time she stopped next to the door to listen, the voices disappeared. Neither of them wanted to spend another night inside that house. They agreed to leave before sunset. The children didn't argue, in fact. They seemed strangely quiet, almost as though they already knew they were leaving. As David carried that last box toward the front door, Ethan looked back down the hallway. "Dad," he whispered. David turned. "What is it?" Ethan frowned. "The tall lady is standing by the storage room." David didn't say a word, and his heart was beating so fast. Slowly, he looked toward the end of the hallway. The old wooden door was closed. The hallway was empty. "There isn't anyone there," he said, trying to reassure his son. Ethan didn't answer at all. He simply lowered his head and walked outside. The family loaded the final bag into the car. David returned to the front door one last time. He looked through the entrance into the silent house. Everything was still: the hallway, the living room, the old storage room at the very end. For a brief moment, he thought he saw a tall shadow standing perfectly still near the door. He blinked, but it was gone. Without another second of hesitation, he locked the front door, dropped the keys through the mail slot, and walked away. The family never returned. They left behind their furniture, even the children's toys, and everything they couldn't carry with them. Years later, the old house was demolished after falling into severe disrepair. What truly happened inside those walls, no one has ever been able to explain. Some believe it was nothing more than fear fueled by old rumors. Others believed the family escaped something they were never meant to understand. Whatever the truth was, David made one promise to himself: he would never again ignore a warning that everyone else was too afraid to dismiss. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed tonight's story, please like, share, and subscribe. Now, what do you think about this story? Was it simply fear and coincidence, or was there truly something waiting inside that old house? If you ever experienced something strange or unexplained, do not hesitate to share your story in the comments below. I read your comments, and I would love to hear your experiences. Who knows, your story might be even featured in the future episode of Midnight True Tales. Until then, stay safe, and I will see you again.